this video might feel uncomfortable. It's going to expose things in your funnel you didn't even know were broken. In the part 1, I call this the invisible forces, right? They don't show up in dashboards. Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Before we jump in, let me say this upfront, right? This video might feel uncomfortable because it's going to expose things in your funnel you didn't even know were broken. In the part 1 that we published last week, we talked about how your funnel is built to fail and why exactly is it failing. Not because you're bad at your job, not because you're lazy, but because most B2B marketers are following a 2005 playbook in a 2025 world. And I want to go a little deeper to this, right? We are going into the psychology of why even a well-designed funnels silently die, right? And what I call this the invisible forces, right? They don't show up in dashboards, but if you ignore them, you'll keep seeing lead form fills with zero movement. Demos and demo bookings that ghost you, right? And sales calls that fizzle out, right? So and it's not just you, right? I have seen this happen with a lot of tech companies, SaaS companies, whether VC funded or not, public B2B tech companies, and even with award-winning marketing teams. And let me show you what's happening behind the scenes. And I want to start with a story. At one point, I was consulting for a VC-backed SaaS platform, right? And they had insane top of the funnel numbers that they were able to generate through listing sites and product review sites, whether it's G2 or Trustpilot, right? They had 18,000 ebook downloads in about 2 to 3 months, and they also had about 1,800 to 2,000 product calculator completions, right? And their CTRs were about 2% on the paid ads, and their funnel looked amazing, right? And why was sales pipeline bleeding, right? When we did the audit, we found something chilling, right? And of these 2,200 people who used the forms and the calculator, only 43 booked a meeting, and just 7 became the sales qualified. So what went wrong? And we dug deeper, right? We interviewed the form fills, we interviewed the influencers and the decision makers, and here is what we found. They used calculator out of curiosity. They didn't really think of changing vendors at that point. It was useful, but they didn't want to deal with switching their current system, right? And I can understand, because there is a lot of stress when you're changing the system. There's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of work, right? But the competitors but the clients or the prospects were just comparing with a competitor. They had no intention to buy, right? That's when it kind of hit us, right? That they had a psychological engagement, but not a decision momentum, right? And this kind of leads to the invisible force number 1, right? And then I want to talk a little bit about this psychological inertia, if you will, right? We assume that once a lead engages, they will take the next step, right? But it's completely wrong. Buyers today are overworked, overstimulated, and overwhelmed. They have good intentions but limited energy. And it's like someone who signs up for a gym membership and then never shows up, right? And they are not against change. They're just emotionally not emotionally activated to kind of commit to an action. And in B2B, especially whether SaaS or tech, they download the ROI guide but don't reply to your SDR, right? They complete the calculator and they ghost the CTA, right? They join the webinar and drop off after maybe 11 minutes, 15 minutes, right? This isn't disinterested. It's the inertia, right? The funnel, if you will, technically worked, but psychology, right? The buyer hasn't moved. And what's the fix here? Instead of jumping straight to book a demo, offer a low friction nudge. Do you want to compare your score to others in your industry? Do you think this is a good nudge, right? See how your peer company or a competitor of theirs use this data to unlock X dollar in savings. Make the buyer feel like moving forward is effortless. And we once added what others discovered next slider on a product page, and the demo conversions jumped. And we used the same idea in an email campaign, what your competitors are doing, and we were able to have a far better conversion in terms of 20%, 30%, because we were giving them the emotional momentum and not a task. And that kind of brings me to the invisible force number 2, right? Decision avoidance and the bias related to it. Have you ever added more proof, more assets, more PDF to your nurture flow, hoping buyers would finally feel ready? Bad news, right? You might be feeding decision avoidance. In SaaS and in B2B, the fear of making the wrong call is career threatening, right? It's like a suicide mission. We worked with mid-market data security platform, and they had one buyer download, right? Let's say 7 different assets over 3 weeks. They all looked highly engaged, but never moved forward. And why? Because the buyer said in a follow-up call that honestly, your products seem powerful. We love your product. We like what you are seeing. We like what we are seeing, but if I'm making the wrong choice and it causes downtime, then it's on me. Right? That's why even in the previous video I spoke about buyers are worried about losing their job. Buyers are worried about losing their incentive. Buyers are worried about getting blamed for the downtime or a product failure. Right? Buyers don't want more content. They want emotional assurance that this decision won't ruin them. So instead of here is more content to learn, try here is what the CTO in your industry did next. Here is how your team can get result without disrupting current workflows. And this is really decision coaching, right? And it's one step beyond the nurturing, right? And give them the confidence to act. And I want to talk a little bit about the invisible force 3, the mismatched trust triggers. Let's talk about when to show proof, right? I kind of worked with a IT services company who were targeting CIOs, and their homepage visitors with 47 customer logos and 5 G2 awards and Gartner reports and mentioned in various quadrants, right? And the conversion was low. And why? Because the first thing the buyer wanted was to understand, do you solve my problem? Not have you won awards. Winning awards and winning recognition and analyst mention have a place in the buyer journey, but you don't lead with that, right? Trust triggers only work when they answer the buyer's current objection, right? Trust triggers, whether it's the award or the analyst mention or whatever that is, right? In early stage, use persona specific results. See how a head of DevOps at a $30 million company or a $40 million company cut cloud cost by 27%, 30%, right? In mid stage, use social proof plus metrics, rated number 1 by 500 CIOs for ease of implementation. So here you see that it talks about the position in the market. It talks about the buyer persona, like the 1,100 CIOs. For what? For ease of implementation, right? So in late stage, offer risk reduction, fully refundable POC, onboarding in 48 hours, or it's on us. But if you mismatch the trust trigger, the buyer tunes out. And that is why these 3 invisible forces are very dangerous. And if you can tame this, you have already won half of the battle. I want to talk a little bit about the buyer resistance triangle because of the 3 invisible forces that I spoke about. The buyer resistance triangle of these invisible forces are the inertia. They are stuck even if interested. The second is the avoidance. They are afraid to decide. They are scared to make a decision. And then the mistrust. They are not sure if it's safe. Right? So ask yourself this. Yeah? Are you assuming interest is equal to readiness? Are you accidentally overwhelming with too much information? Are you showing the right proof at the wrong time? Right? If you are leaking at one of these points, your funnel will quietly collapse. These forces don't show up in your marketing automation dashboard. They don't show up in your Salesforce or any CRM. They don't get mentioned in your funnel templates, but they are very much real. And they are responsible for the millions of dollars that you are losing in your pipeline. So what's your next step? Rebuild your funnel with these forces in mind. And that's exactly what we will do in the part 3. In the next video, I'll break down real examples of funnel rewiring. How we helped a SaaS or a tech company lift demo conversions by 2x or 3x. How one simple re-entry trigger revived $100,000 in dormant pipeline, and how 1% marketers think not in stages but in buyer psychology stacks. So comment below which of these 3 forces do you now see in your own funnel, right? Have you ever been ghosted and didn't know why? And this might be the reason. So thank you for your time, and I hope you found this helpful, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thank you and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.